we've done temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, and last time we did moderation. And this week I'm going to make everybody mad. We're going to talk about cleanliness. So I'm going to get on everybody's bad side here. So cleanliness. And his statement that he always has a short statement of what he means by cleanliness. He says, tolerate no uncleanness or no uncleanliness in body, clothes, or habitation. And naturally, I'm going to expand it a little bit beyond that. But anyway, that's his basic thought, is to basically keep yourself and your household clean. And the definition of cleanliness is kind of a moving target. I wrote down what is clean, and I concluded that it means free from filth. Whatever that means, free from filth. But unfortunately, that has had different meanings throughout history. You may know that in the ancient days, they didn't have soap. About the best you could do, if you read about it in some of the places in the Bible, in the Old Testament, they would talk about, putting olive oil on their skins. And a typical thing for people in the ancient days would be to put olive oil or some other kind of oil on the skin, rub it in, and then scrape it off. And that was basically a bath to them. And in case you're wondering why they used olive oil, chemists, anybody a chemist in here? Like removes like. So if your skin is oily, you need to find an oil-based something that hopefully is water-soluble, which olive oil really isn't, but hopefully something that's water-soluble, that's oil-based. Soap is essentially a fat. It's an oil, but it's a water-soluble oil. And so when you rub soap on your body, that dissolves any oils on your body and then turns it into something that water can wash off. So like removes like. So that's why they used oil to remove body oils. Anyway, in the ancient times, people really didn't do much in the way of taking baths other than just pour water over themselves occasionally and rub oil into their hair, which would gross me out. And they would scrape their skin. And that moved forward in time, but to a large extent, you didn't have toothbrushing, you didn't have deodorants, Every now and then I'll get to thinking about this, and I think, the mother of Jesus probably smelled. It just bothers me to think about that. Jesus probably smelled. As hard as you would try, you couldn't get as clean as we can get today. It's just not possible, or wasn't possible. Then the Greeks and the Romans, they had their baths and things like that, but that was more of a social event. I mean, you would go in and you'd get in the cold water and the hot water and then this water and that water and everything, and you spend all day in there. And by the time you got out, you were dirty again because they didn't clean the water. And so, ugh. But anyway, cleanliness was not a big thing, I would like to say, I guess, in the old days. And by the time we got to the medieval times, in fact, Christians, from the time of Christ up into the medieval times and even beyond, it was considered a virtue not to be clean. Because you didn't pay attention to the body, you paid attention to the spirit. So the monks and people wouldn't bathe and they would smell bad, but they were so pious and righteous because they stunk so bad, It's a very odd way of looking at things. But in the medieval times, when they had the plagues and things, it was often noticed that if you went to the public baths, you got sick or got the diseases. Well, that's because the water was filthy, for one thing, and everybody in the room was contaminating you and everything. But their idea was that the hot water opened up the pores of your skin and allowed the disease to go into you. So they stayed away from bathing. It went completely out of vogue. People didn't take baths. In fact, the disease, which has been with us forever, called malaria, we know where that comes from. It comes from a mosquito bite that has a parasite in it that then gets in your blood and you catch the disease called malaria. Our daughter has malaria. she took the vaccine before she went to Benin, Africa for 6 weeks some years ago when she was still in college. She comes home with malaria, even though she took the vaccine. And you never quite get rid of it. You just control it. Is all you can do. Anyway, malaria. Those of you who have studied a little bit of languages, mal. Anybody know what that means in French? Mal means bad. Napoleon had a house called La Malmaison, which it means the bad house. But mal means bad. Aria, which is more Italian than it is French, is air. So it translates bad air. They thought the swamp gases that you could smell, if you go into a swamp, it kind of stinks. They thought the swamp gases were what caused malaria. It was really the mosquitoes in the swamp gases that were really doing it. But anyway, they didn't know about germs. And so concepts up even to the mid-1800s, which included Benjamin Franklin's entire life, were if it looked okay and didn't stink, it was clean. That's all they understood. And even that wasn't that big a deal with them, because can you imagine the powdered wigs, and you see all the clothes and layers and things that they wore. Can you imagine being in Freedom Hall in Philadelphia in July? No air conditioning, no fans, sweat everywhere. But we are beyond that. Our standards are very different now, aren't they? Because in the mid-1800s, Louis Pasteur comes up with the germ theory of diseases and starts pasteurization and things like that. And so we completely do a turnaround. Just because it looks and smells clean doesn't mean it is necessarily. And so we began that process of moving forward with more frequent bathing. Of course, when my father was a child, you only bathed once a week. And some of you may remember that too, because you didn't have that much hot water available. And you didn't want to go down to that creek that often and get in that cold water. In fact, in the winter, you didn't bathe at all because it was just too cold, unless they could heat some water and give you a bath. So bathing has kind of moved forward in time, and hygiene and that sort of thing has gotten kind of heavy duty. There's even been a marketing element of it. Now you must use toothpaste. You must use deodorant. You must use mouthwash. You must use this hair care stuff. You must use, this kind of soap and everything, or you will stink and people will hate you and if you don't use that particular brand. So we've kind of been pulled into this from a marketing standpoint also. In fact, the idea of chronic halitosis was not invented by dentists. It was invented by marketing people. There are people who have that, but not everybody has it. If they do, everybody knows. It is nasty. There was a married couple at Los Alamos National Lab that were both division leaders, a man and a woman, and they both had the worst halitosis of anybody I've ever met. You couldn't stand within 4 feet of them. It was just that bad. In fact, you tried to stand about 90 degrees off from them because if the air came, it was just overpowering. They couldn't tell it because their chemistries matched. And so they didn't smell it on each other at all. It was a perfect match. Two people with horrible halitosis didn't smell it on each other. So it worked out great. Okay, and today, as I said, we have quite a different set of standards. And it kind of depends on whether you're talking about your home or you're talking about the environment. We have environmental standards out in the environment, the water and the air and things like that. And those are kind of different than what standards we use in our homes. A little different because we don't have specific standards in our homes. But you have to even be careful with the environmental standards. For example, there is a Lake Tahoe in Northern California that is a pristine, almost distilled water lake. By the way, that's called oligotrophic, to those of you who want to know the technical details. I learned that in college. Oligotrophic means very, very clean. Eutrophic means full of organic and other matter. Okay, a eutrophic lake is very bad because it rots and everything, and it eats up all the oxygen in the water and nothing can live. That's bad, eutrophic. There are lots of those in Florida. They stink. They're basically swamps are eutrophic. Oligotrophic, on the other hand, says the water is pristine clean. there is no organic matter in the water. Guess what? That's bad too. Why? Lake Tahoe has no fish in it. There's nothing to eat. It's a pristine lake. There's nothing, no animals can live in it. There's not enough food in there to support any kind of animal life. A friend of mine, PhD chemist, was called into that area one time as a consultant. They wanted to know what they could do to improve fishing in Lake Tahoe because there's almost nothing there. It's just this lake of water. It's beautiful, but there's no fish in it. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you what you need to do, but you're not going to like it. I said, okay, go ahead and tell us. He says, all the way across over there, you've got a tertiary sewage treatment plant that treats the water back to drinking standards before you release it into Lake Tahoe. He says, turn it off and just let the raw sewage hit the water. We can't do that! And he says, well, then you're going to always have an oligotrophic lake because you have to have enough organic matter in the water to cause, plant life and animal life to have something to eat. And so they said, no, thank you very much, and he took his fee and went home. And the lake is still oligotrophic with no fish in it to speak of. So environmental standards, again, we're kind of talking that balance thing. And sometimes we get obsessive about that, but there's also that aspect in our homes, isn't there? The obsessiveness of cleaning too much, maybe. Most of us are not guilty of that. Rarely are we guilty of cleaning too much. We might get on a binge of certain aspects of it, but it's not, they're super, 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 super clean to the point of being crazy and everything. It does happen, so we don't need to be pathological about it. And if we are extremely, and we are extremely obsessed quite often with cleanliness in our environment today, it can actually lead to disease. The body is designed to have certain amounts of onslaughts against it, and it keeps the immune system up. I think I talked about that a couple of weeks ago when I talked about hormesis. A certain amount of radiation keeps your immune system on alert, and so you're able to fight off other diseases as a result. And if you are put in a sterile bubble for years and then brought out into the environment, you get sick. This kind of thing happened when people went to Hawaii for the first time. They all got sick and died. The people in Hawaii did because they had never been exposed to the simple things like common cold, and they died by the thousands. We nearly killed off all of the Caribbean Indians when Columbus came through because of all the diseases they brought with them that they had never come across, ever. And it just wiped them out. And so there is a reasonable balance of cleanliness and slight dirtiness, let's say, that makes some kind of sense. I would rather err on the side of cleanliness than on the side of dirtiness, but you can be too clean, I guess. I would like to talk for a second or two about the concept of cleanliness under the old law. The Jews were 3,000 years ahead of the rest of the world on sanitation and cleanliness. This is one of the arguments that I think really is a strong argument for the validity of God, the existence of God. He gave them rules and regulations that they didn't know why they were doing it. All they knew is they had to do it. And if you read them, you go, that's just sanitation rules. And we assume everybody knew that. Nobody knew that for thousands of years. But yet they had all these sanitation rules that protected them. The quintessential quotation is in Exodus 15:26, and it said, I guess it's God speaking here. He says, if you listen carefully to Jehovah your God and do what is right in His eyes, if you pay attention to His commands and keep all of His decrees, I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am Jehovah who heals you. Now, people could say, okay, He's choosing not to inflict them with diseases. Okay, in a sense, that's true. But let's look at an example here, and I don't have a bunch of these. I'm just going to give this one, and then we'll just talk in general about it. In Deuteronomy 23, verses 12 and 13, listen to what he says. Designate a place outside the camp where you can go to relieve yourself. You know what that means. As part of your equipment, have something to dig with. And when you relieve yourself, dig a hole and cover up your excrement. Nobody knew why that was supposed to be done. Nobody. They had no idea. There's even a place, I saw it somewhere and I never could find it. It basically gave instructions for the Jews on how to dig a camp latrine. Nobody did that, ever, for thousands of years. They would just do their business wherever, you know. And up even into the early 1800s, people just threw all their sewage and stuff right out on the street, you know, in London, the stinkiest place on earth to be. You know why women carried the beautiful parasols that they carried when it wasn't raining? Because stuff was coming from above on them. That's why they had those parasols that they carried around. Do you know why men are supposed to walk on the street side with the women when they walk down? Because when a buggy would come through, it would hit that slop and splash it on him instead of on her. Plus, nowadays, you get hit instead of her if a car comes through, so it's still a gentlemanly thing to do. Anyway, so they had all kinds of necessary requirements that they didn't understand what any of it meant. They just knew they were supposed to do it. They had all kinds of rules about having clean food and what could touch what. You know, if it touches a dead body, it's unclean. Or if there's a dead animal that dies on the street, you can't eat it. You know, something's wrong with it. You don't want to do that. They had all kinds of regulations on disease transmission. Remember, there's a whole major section on if you've got a rash or something, you go to the priest and they do this and that and the other, and if it goes away, it's okay. If it's not, you got to get out of the camp. They understood. Well, they didn't understand what was going on. They understood what they had to do, but they didn't know why at all. They even had one that's quite interesting. It said, and I didn't get the quotation for it, I just remembered it. It said, if something dead, a dead animal, falls on seed, it's okay to use the seed. Why? Do what? Well, first of all, it doesn't hurt the seed. If the seed doesn't rot, it grows up in the dirt as a plant, and the whatever was wrong with the animal doesn't get into the plant, oddly enough. But it says it's okay to use the seed if that happens. But if it touches food, don't eat it. If food sits out all day, don't eat it. Why not? It still seems okay. It's a little smelly, but it's okay. No, don't eat it. It's bad for you because you could get food poisoning from it and things like that. Huge amounts of ceremonial things that they thought they were doing just as part of the requirements was designed to protect them from all of these diseases that other people got all the time. People wonder why God says, you know, you should have your wife and nobody else, don't mess around. Well, he's just taking away all of our fun. No, he's trying to prevent syphilis and gonorrhea and about 15 other diseases. You don't do that because you get diseases when you do that. I understand human flesh is quite tasty. I've not tried it. I don't think I will. Do you know you will get major diseases if you eat that for very long? It causes all kinds of monstrous diseases in your body if you do that. So they were obviously not supposed to do that either. And other animals can do it too. Some of them, like the pig, have changed through the years because we now know how to cook it. We know what's going on with the pigs. And most of our pigs nowadays no longer have trichinosis anymore because we don't feed them pig meat, which is how that would be propagated. Anyway, so there were lots and lots of health and sanitation things in there. So let's talk about several aspects of cleanliness. The first one is your surroundings. And I've already said the outside environment and your home are not the same. There are different kinds of standards needed. And in your home is one of the really most important places. As I was growing up as a child, I lived in an extremely clean home. By probably the average person's standards, my mother would have been considered obsessed. But you could achieve her standards. In fact, we children, my primarily my sister and I, because my brother was 8 years younger than us, so he was pretty much a baby. But my sister and I, who was 2 years younger than me, did a lot of the house cleaning and got paid. So for children, we had a lot more money than the average child did. Even though we weren't rich, our parents said, well, we'll pay you instead of getting a housekeeper. And so I would do vacuuming and clean bathrooms and things when I was 10 years old. And the house was quite clean. In fact, if I dropped a sandwich on the floor, I picked it up and kept eating it because the floor was that clean. And my mother would hand me a rag immediately and say, okay, clean that up, and, with some Lysol and stuff. She washed the towels every day. She washed every day, in fact. But it was not one of those things, like they have the braided rope across the living room that nobody can go into because it's too clean and we don't want anybody. You've seen those, I guess. I actually had a friend that his mother had one of those. I said, what's the purpose of the room then? Is it a picture? Is that what it is? You couldn't go in there because it was too clean. In the summer, I would go out barefooted with cut-off blue jeans and maybe a t-shirt or no shirt at all. And sometimes I would come home, had 150 acres of woods behind our house that I just lived in. I was a child of the woods. And I would come home sometime covered head to foot with mud. Now, an obsessive mother would go nuts, right? You're not coming in this house. Okay, what she would do is she would go, okay, Joe, why don't you and your sister go play with the garden hose for about 15 minutes, and y'all just, have fun. Keep your clothes on, just spray, and we would just have a ball. I mean, you're telling a kid to go play with a garden hose, for heaven's sake. What could be better than that? We would wash most of that stuff off, and then she'd make us take our clothes off. She'd, pick them up in a basket or something, put them directly in the washer, and we would go directly to the bathtub where the hot bath had already been run for us. We got clean, and everything was fine. Put on clean clothes, and boom, everything's fine. So, I grew up. I didn't know that houses could get dirty until I was like in my 20s. I didn't know that. I think I hit it about the time I went away to college. And I couldn't handle it. So anyway, I grew up in a very clean house. Well, let me ask you a question. If, and you don't have to answer this, just think about it. If a restaurant that you wanted to eat in followed your kitchen hygiene practices and standards, would you want to eat there? In my case, the answer would be yes, because I'm pretty tough in the kitchen. As I cook, I probably wash my hands every 45 seconds, just rinse them off in hot water. And I wash things as I use them, and by the time I'm done cooking, the kitchen's picked up. So I wouldn't mind. If they followed my standards, I'd be good with that. But if a restaurant followed your kitchen hygiene standards, would you want to eat there? If a hotel followed your housekeeping and bathroom sanitation standards, would you want to stay there? If you can't say yes, that you would, why would I want to come to your house and eat your food then? I mean, really. If you don't feel like you would go to a restaurant that followed your kitchen standards, then I'm not sure I want to come to your house and eat. Now, you may not want me to come to your house and eat, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't want to come to your house and eat if you can't be at least as clean as a restaurant, because they're not that clean. I'm going to stop preaching here and start meddling. If you own a cat, does it ever get on the kitchen counter and walk across the kitchen counter? You know where that cat's feet were about 5 minutes ago? In a litter box. Ugh. So if you don't go behind that cat with Clorox, if it gets up there, I don't want to eat at your house. I'm sorry. I just don't want to do that. I don't want a dog in my face. I grew up with dogs. I don't want a dog in my face or at the table with me. I love dogs, but, when I got my master's when I was doing my master's thesis, there was a lady that was, I think I've told you about her before. I think I mentioned it maybe just a couple of weeks ago. She was the department secretary, and I wanted her to type my thesis for me, because in those days we didn't have word processors. You had to have somebody that was really good, could be neat and clean and get it right, because you didn't have copies. that you could just print over and over and over again, making small corrections. And so I got the best I could get. She was the department secretary, just perfectly, immaculately dressed. Her office was perfect and immaculate and everything. I think I told you I went to her house one day to pick up a draft, and she lived in a trailer, and that was fine, but it was the filthiest trailer I've ever seen in my life. There was spaghetti sauce that had been on the front of the stove for weeks that had dried and went all the way to the floor and formed a puddle, and it was so dry you probably would have to use a spatula to scrape it up. Filthy house. I no longer loved her after that, but I was desperately in love with her because she was so prim and proper and clean and neat, but I just can't take that. So, home. Your home should be clean enough so that visitors are comfortable there, please. At least that clean. I mean, I have been in homes that I would not sit down on the couch. Not because of the cat. I'm allergic to cats, but it was so dirty I didn't want to soil my pants with the dirt. It just filthy houses. I don't know how people can do that. Okay, so let's move on to body and clothes. You know, a greasy, stinky body will not make you popular. I'm pretty sure of that. But also, smelling like strong perfume from 20 feet away will not make you popular either. Have you ever run across somebody like that as they're walking towards you, you're hit with this wall of perfume coming at you? That's way too much. Neat, clean, that would be fine. In fact, I'm going to give you an example. Where did Phil and Alva go? Well, they left. They must have gotten mad. Luma Conley. Those of you who have been here a while, you know who Luma Conley is. She died how many years ago? Some years ago. Luma was what, like 90-something when she passed? And you know, people, none of us, but people when they get old, sometimes they kind of smell a little bit. I know I do. Anyway, Luma, no matter how close you got to her, Luma smelled clean all the time. And if you got right up to her, she smelled like honeysuckle or something. She had this very light perfume that she wore. She always smelled good and looked good. And she was an old woman. Phil, I was just talking about Luma, how clean she always smelled to me, and even when you got up close to her. I know you never did that because you wouldn't get that close to Luma. You and she hated each other. He's grinning because he knows different than that. But anyway, you don't want to smell like perfume to the point to where you drive people away, and you also don't want to smell like a dog to the point of where you drive people away. It pays to take an occasional shower. And also, your dirty clothes hamper is not your clothes closet, is it? And turning your underwear inside out does not mean you put on clean underwear. There are people who do that. Anyway, so we need to keep our bodies clean, and I'm going to explain to you here in a little while why that's important, other than the disease issue. Now I want to talk about a clean mind. Whoops, there comes one. Psalm 51:10. David is crying over his sin with Bathsheba, and he says, "Create in me a clean heart, O God. Make me clean inside again, in my brain and in my heart." Matthew 12 is a fairly long reading. It's actually just 2 verses, 34 and 35, but it's decently long, and it covers a bunch of stuff in those few verses. Actually, that's not the long one. Matthew 12, 34 and 35 says, "You generation of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart," the head and everything, your brain, "the mouth speaks. A good man out of the good treasure of the heart brings forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth evil things." Again, Philippians 4, 7 and 8, "And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." And then he quotes the things that I mentioned last time. "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, pure, lovely, of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things." Clean mind, clean head. Remember the story where Jesus was talking about the man who had the demon living in him, and he expelled the demon, and he swept and cleaned house. And he didn't replace it with anything good. He was just swept clean. And the demon comes back and goes, "Whoa, the maid's been here." And he goes and gets a whole bunch of his friends, and they come back, and get him, and he's worse off than he was. So just having your brain swept and cleaned is not enough. You got to fill it with something good. and garbage in, garbage out, so fill it with something good. And jumping even beyond that, we need a clean spirit. You've heard the phrase, cleanliness is next to godliness. It's not in the Bible. But from a practical standpoint, it is. It's not in the Bible. Those words are not in the Bible. But from a practical standpoint, it is. In fact, throughout the Bible, cleanliness is used as a spiritual metaphor. We run into it a lot of times. Let me give you a couple of quick examples. Isaiah 1:18, and I at first thought this was in the New Testament, but it's not. It's in the Old Testament. Come now, let us settle the matter, says Jehovah. Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they are red as crimson, they shall be like wool. White, clean, pristine, crisp, clean. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Matthew 23, this is the longer one I was thinking of, I think, earlier. Matthew 23, verses 23 through 27, he's coming down on the Pharisees. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give 1/10 of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat but swallow a camel. Now here comes the thing. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and dish. Okay, that was the Jewish sanitation thing, which other people didn't know about. They would just get the filth out of it, you know. You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. So he's mixing his metaphors here. He's actually talking about them, not the dish. Blind Pharisees, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, and then the outside will also be clean. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You're like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. That's that mixture of Jewish sanitation rules with an application to the spirit inside you that is messed up. So we're getting close to the end, and I would like to suggest, you may or may not agree with these, but I'm going to suggest some things that result from cleanliness in every aspect of your life. Besides perhaps protecting you from diseases, a reasonable amount of cleanliness makes you feel good. You ever want to take a shower? Yeah. Man, I'm filthy. I gotta go take a shower. You get out, and I tell my wife, tell Tyra, I said, I feel 5 pounds lighter. You know, I've gotten 5 pounds worth of dirt off of me. You feel better. You feel good. And it may have been created by social engineering or whatever, but I feel better when I take a shower. And you get on nice, clean, crisp clothes. You just feel better, right? And you can just I don't want to say anything else about that. Just taking a shower, getting clean, putting on clean clothes just feels good. It makes you feel better about yourself and everything. Believe it or not, it helps keep your mind clear and your life organized. If your house is nothing but a pile of clutter, you can't find anything, right? It's always lost. And it's under 14 shirts over in a corner that, how in the world did the car keys get over there, you know? And I've told you about my daughter when she was younger. She would just walk in the house and just literally throw her car keys over her shoulder, and it would go bouncing under the sofa somewhere. And she wasn't very organized. But if you keep your household picked up, clean, stuff where it's supposed to be, and organized, you're better able to do stuff without spending all of your time searching for things. And people say, well, you know, it's the same amount of work if I let it get knee-deep and then clean it up all at one time. Well, yeah, but it's never clean, except that few minutes after you clean it. Plus, you have to wade through the garbage to do the cleaning, so that does add to work. So it's better to just keep it that way all the time, if you can. This person says there is a natural connection between the order of your environment and the state of your mind. Clutter will weigh you down and stress you out. A clean, well-organized environment will lift your spirits. I find that to be true. I don't know if you find that to be true or not. It also, and this one to me is very important, it gives you a good image. What do you think people think about you if you're a slouchy mess in your house and in your clothes and everything? What do you think they think about you? Whether it's right or wrong, what do they think? I don't want to go to that house. I don't want to eat anything they cook. You know, and I don't like being around them because they smell. You know, you could be the best person on earth, and people would not want to be around you because of that. It's just good manners, I guess, and it creates a better image. And guess what? First impressions really are important because those are hard to turn around. And people, no matter how informed and enlightened and politically correct they are, people always form a first impression on you within 5 seconds or less when they meet you. I don't care who you are. Even if you're a psychiatrist with all kinds of training and not doing that, you will automatically form an impression of a person in less than 5 seconds, usually in about 2 seconds. And it's hard to turn that around. So you need to do your best to present a good image to people of cleanliness and order and organization and things like that, because people don't like chaos and nastiness. And this last one's kind of interesting. It says it leads to beauty. Have you ever thought about that? Neat, well-proportioned, symmetric things appeal to the eye. Neat, orderly, symmetric things automatically appeal to our eyes. Chaos and destruction and things are not appealing. And so if you walk around looking like a car wreck, people are not going to be attracted to you. You can take somebody who's not all that great looking and dress them up nicely, and people will be drawn to that person, or at least not reject them right out of hand. But you could take the smartest, best-looking person on earth and dress them like a bum, and people, they don't want to be around that. It's stinky and nasty and everything. So it can actually lead to you being more appreciated and your environment being more appreciated if you have an orderly and clean environment. Next week, so now you can all hate me because I've been chastising you about cleanliness and everything, but I trust most of you are quite clean in your lives. The homes of you that I have been into, I have had no trouble at all eating your food or sitting on your couches, so we're good. Next week we're going to talk about tranquility, and this one's of course kind of hard to achieve. It's like being at peace, isn't it? And that's sometimes difficult in our crazy society, but we will talk about tranquility next time. And now our benediction. May our God bless you with a clean spirit, whiter than snow, and eternal life in His glorious presence.